What if the greatest display of intelligence wasn't in what you say, but in what you choose not to? We live in a world that rewards noise. Everywhere, people speak to be heard, to be seen, to prove. But the intelligent man, the truly wise man, knows a different kind of power. A quieter kind, one that doesn't beg for applause or validation. He's not rushing to finish your sentence, not trying to win every argument, and certainly not looking to impress. He's measured, still. And when he speaks, people lean in. Because his words carry weight, not because they are loud, but because they are rare. This kind of man understands something many never do, that silence can be stronger than sound, that restraint can say more than rhetoric, and that in a world obsessed with saying the right thing, the real strength might lie in knowing when to say nothing at all. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." The same could be said of speech. The more we speak to be accepted, to be understood, or to defend our pride, the less grounded we become in our own truth. The intelligent man is not owned by his emotions or driven by the impulse to react. He observes, he filters, he speaks only when there is clarity, not when there is pressure. And this clarity, it does not come easily. It is earned through years of missteps, regrets, and realizations. Through conversations where he spoke too soon, defended too hard, or tried to prove what didn't need proving. That's how a man learns that wisdom isn't about being right, it's about being aligned. Aligned with peace, with purpose, with something deeper than the surface chatter of daily life. So if you've reached a point in life where the noise feels exhausting, if you're beginning to wonder whether fewer words might bring more clarity, you're not alone. This message was made for men like you, men who are done performing, men who are ready to lead, not with volume, but with presence. Because in the end, it's not what you say that defines you. It's what you choose to rise above. And sometimes that means choosing to say nothing at all. The 7 things an intelligent man never says. Stoic perspective 1. I already know that. This phrase often masquerades as confidence, but it quietly signals the death of curiosity. A truly intelligent man remains a student, even in rooms where he's the most experienced voice. When you say, "I already know that," what you're often revealing isn't mastery. It's insecurity cloaked in certainty. The Stoics taught that the wisest among us are the most aware of how much they do not know. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You must become humble if you would attain wisdom." A humble man listens, not because he lacks knowledge, but because he honors the infinite nature of understanding. 2. That's impossible. It's a simple statement, but one that binds your hands before you've even tried. An intelligent man knows that most impossibilities are born from fear, not fact. When you dismiss a challenge as unachievable, what you're often doing is protecting yourself from the discomfort of effort, or worse, from the embarrassment of failure. Seneca warned us, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." The Stoic way is not to shrink from difficulty, but to move steadily through it, knowing that obstacles are not dead ends, they are teachers. 3. That's not my fault. Blame is a currency that buys temporary comfort at the cost of long-term growth. A wise man does not fear fault, he learns from it. When you deny responsibility, you also deny the opportunity to improve. Epictetus put it plainly, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The Stoic doesn't waste energy on proving he's blameless. He asks, "What part of this can I own? What can I do next?" This is not weakness. It's strength in its most disciplined form. 4. I don't need any help. This is perhaps the most culturally reinforced illusion, that independence equals invincibility. But true Stoic strength is not isolation. It is interdependence with discernment. Even Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, wrote with reverence about those who shaped his thinking. Wisdom is communal. A man who cannot ask for help is not protecting his dignity, he is starving it. Help is not an admission of failure. It is a declaration of courage to face life with open eyes and shared hands. 5. I'm too old for that. A man's body may slow, but his mind and spirit are not bound by time. To declare yourself too old is to surrender to a false boundary, a wall built not by years, but by hesitation. The Stoics believed that life is about what you do while you're alive. not how long you've been here. Cato, at an old age, took up philosophy. If you still have breath, you still have work to do. Let your age be your advantage, your perspective, your patience, your clarity. These are tools the young do not yet possess. 6. I'll do it later. This phrase is the silent thief of meaning. It robs you slowly without ever raising its voice. The Stoics lived with urgency, not anxiety. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. The intelligent man understands that the window for action is never promised. He writes the letter now. He makes the call now. He begins the habit now. Because later is where intention goes to die. 7. That's just how I am. This is resignation disguised as authenticity. It's a refusal to evolve, a clinging to comfort under the banner of identity. But the Stoic knows better. You are not your habits. You are not your reactions. You are what you choose, moment by moment. Epictetus said, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. To say that's just how I am is to declare the end of growth. But growth is the point. Intelligence doesn't resist change, it invites it. The man you were last year should not be the man you are today. And the man you are today should not fear who you are becoming. Each of these phrases, when left unchecked, becomes a ceiling. But the Stoic man knows that ceilings are illusions. There's always more room to grow if you're willing to tear down the limits you've spoken into existence. Timeless Stoic lessons woven throughout. Beneath each of the 7 things an intelligent man never says lies something deeper than restraint. It is the quiet strength of self-mastery, the discipline of choosing clarity over ego, and the willingness to live with intention instead of reaction. And that is where Stoicism doesn't just speak, it lives. Not as a list of principles, but as a way of being. You see, Stoicism is not about suppressing emotion, it's about shaping character. The ancient Stoics were not statues standing emotionless in the face of life. They were men deeply acquainted with the human struggle. Men who faced grief, betrayal, aging, power, and poverty, and yet chose to respond with wisdom rather than impulse. They didn't avoid life's difficulties. They trained for them. Epictetus, once a slave, taught that it is not our conditions but our convictions that define us. He believed the true measure of a man wasn't how loudly he speaks or how quickly he reacts, but how steadily he holds to virtue when the world becomes uncertain. So when you hear yourself wanting to say, that's just how I am, remember that Epictetus didn't just reject limitation, he transformed it. Marcus Aurelius, seated at the head of an empire, constantly reminded himself of his own mortality, not to depress his spirit, but to elevate it. His journal wasn't a list of victories. It was a collection of reminders. Be humble, be kind, be just. Do not waste time. He knew that the greatest threat to his wisdom wasn't his enemies, it was his comfort. And so he trained himself not to say, I'll do it later, because later was never promised. Seneca, a man surrounded by wealth and power, wrote that life is long if you know how to use it. And yet we shorten our lives not by age, but by avoidance. Every time we say, I don't need help, or that's not my fault, we turn away from the very thing that forges our strength, responsibility, the courage to show up, the humility to ask, the clarity to grow. These ancient voices speak across centuries, not because they had perfect answers, but because they asked better questions. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm not finished? What if this difficulty is a gift in disguise? These are not soft questions. They are sharpening stones. The kind that a thinking man carries in his pocket, not to impress others, but to keep his edge sharp when life grows dull and repetitive. And so, in every phrase the Stoic refuses to speak, there is a deeper yes. A yes to growth, to presence, to strength not defined by volume, but by vision. Not the strength that conquers others, but the one that conquers the self. When a man stops defending the limits he's inherited, I'm too old, I already know, that's just how I am, he creates space for something far more meaningful, for becoming, for building, for being the calm in the chaos, the listener in the noise, the wise voice in a world obsessed with reaction. That is the Stoic legacy. Not to be perfect, but to choose, again and again, the path of thoughtful restraint, quiet confidence, and enduring strength. In a world that rushes to speak, to prove, to defend, the intelligent man learns the strength of choosing silence, the wisdom of reflection, and the discipline of becoming. He doesn't need to say, "I already know that," because he remains a student of life. He doesn't say, "That's impossible," because he understands the obstacle is often just fear in disguise. He doesn't say, "That's not my fault," because he values ownership over ego. And when life presses in with uncertainty, age, pressure, or regret, he does not fall back into excuses like, "I'm too old," or "That's just how I am." He pauses. He listens. He responds with clarity, not comfort. You see, what we choose not to say reveals more than we think. It reveals what we believe, it shows what we value, and it shapes who we are becoming. Every phrase we leave behind becomes space we can fill with better choices, deeper questions, and a quieter kind of courage. This is the invitation of Stoic living, not to become emotionless, but to become steady. Not to close your heart, but to open your mind. Not to hide your struggles, but to face them with dignity. So today, I want to ask you sincerely, what words are you ready to leave behind? What belief are you ready to outgrow? Choose one. Just one. And let that be your first quiet step forward. Then when you're ready, share it below in the comments. Say, "Today I choose wisdom over pride." Because your story might just be the spark that helps another man shift his own. And if you felt something stir within you, something steady, something honest, then don't let it pass. Subscribe to Ultimate Stoicism. This isn't a place for noise or performance. It's a quiet room for men who are still learning, still becoming, still choosing depth over distraction. Here, we don't chase followers. We gather thinkers, builders, men who know that true intelligence isn't in how much you say, but in how well you live. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, stay grounded, stay clear, and keep becoming.